President Trump makes decisions. President Trump makes decisions that are in the best interest of our country. President Trump does what he said he would do. He told the American people he'd secure the border. He did. He told him he'd cut taxes. He did.
He told
and
them
he
that
told
he
the
wouldn't
American
start any
people
new
he'd
wars.
make sure this regime didn't get nuclear capability. And he's making sure that is going to happen, that they do not get that capability in any way, shape, or form, because that would be, as Senator Graham said, what I think would be devastating for the price of oil and for all kinds of other reasons. That would be a bad outcome.
So you talked a little bit there about what the president said. I want to show you some of the things he said on the campaign trail and even before he ended up on the presidential campaign trail. Let's watch.
Our president will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate.
We should have never been in Iraq. We have destabilized the Middle East.
We more and more are not wanting to be the policemen of the world. I will expel the warmongers from our national security state. We're going to end these endless wars, endless wars. They're drafting you to go and fight in some country that I've never heard. They said, he will start a war. I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars.
I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars. How is that an example of President Trump doing what he said he was going to do?
Oh, right. There was that whole no new wars thing that they said over and over again for years. But hey, besides the whole new war thing, I mean, Trump is doing a bang up job, you know, and don't you go blaming Jim Jordan for what he's saying here. OK, for Jim Jordan, protecting pedophiles is more of a passion than a hobby, really. He might even say it's his calling. The only difference nowadays is that the pedophile he's protecting is still endangering the lives of young people, just doing so in a slightly different way.
I have great sympathy for our soldiers and our military leaders. They are being given directions by a senile old man who is losing his mind. And so it's no surprise that this war is going horribly.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good distinction to make for a couple of reasons. One, it's true. And two, criticizing the actions of the United States military should be directed at those actually making those decisions and not the young men and women who are actually serving. I think at the time I'm recording this right now, there's already been 13 U.S. soldiers who have died in this war in Iran. And unfortunately, I do think that number is going to go up. Speaking of numbers going up,
gasoline prices have exerted the most immediate impact felt by consumers through the magnitude of the pass-through prices to other goods, still yet unknown. So, Brian, you talk about who's operating on an economic timeline. I'm not saying we don't do this because I'm worried about the price of oil tomorrow. But I think you have to be prepared for that pushback when people have seen the price at the pump. And we've talked about how the cost of gasoline goes into every single thing that we touch and breathe. And yes, it's spring planting season and we can't get fertilizer for our guys in the Midwest. And so I think that's sort of the economic issue that people, I think, have a right to question.
And they ought to hold their government accountable. I agree with that.
Yeah, I filled up the tank a few days ago, and it was one of the few times in my life where I've been like, holy crap, this is absolutely insane. And granted, I do live in California, so ignoring gas prices is for me really more of like a mental health thing than anything, but I couldn't do it. I was like, this is absolutely astronomical. We're going to have to add like new digits to the pumps pretty soon if we're not careful. Fortunately, I'm privileged enough to work mostly from home, unlike, you know, millions of Americans. Here's one.
I'm a fool, I guess.
Why so, Lindsay?
Well, the prices were down slightly for a short period of time, but currently where I'm at, prices have jumped $1. So for someone like me who's a working person, I mean, yeah, it's good for him to say who makes, you know, $1 million a day or whatever, an hour. But on the other hand, it makes a very big difference to someone like me who has to fill in the gas tank every single week and go to work.
Yeah, I mean, that's really tough. And also, ma'am, I mean, you don't need to refer to yourself as a fool. I wouldn't call you a fool. All right. You were just conned multiple times by the same guy. So you, I I don't know what the word I just wouldn't. Anyway, this final clip is from Rand Paul, who I imagine is kind of like a sentient magic 8-ball, because like, if you shake him up, he'll probably tell you something that's really stupid and completely irrelevant to whatever's going on. But every now and then he says something like this.
But how worried are you that a split Republican Party will only mean losses in the midterm elections? How are you expecting the midterms to play out? And if you do lose the majority, doesn't that put the GOP behind the 8-ball in terms of getting anything done, in terms of your priorities?
I don't think a split party is the problem. I think high oil prices will be a problem. I think the 2026 elections already, we are behind the 8-ball as far as the electoral process. I think if you add in high gas prices, high oil prices, and if we are still bombing Iran with kinetic action, people don't want to call it war, but if there's still kinetic action that causes oil to be over $100, I think you're going to see a disastrous election.
Wow.
From your chapped lips to God's ears, Rand Paul, because I agree. I think as things stand currently, the GOP is set to face a bloodbath in the midterms. And if they continue as they're going, I don't see any reason why Democrats won't take back the White House in 2028. So the only concern I have, besides a list of things that would take me about an hour to read, is the Democrats, okay? Because I think that in the coming years, we're going to need a Democratic nominee who can address these problems in a way that is efficient and doesn't destabilize things too much, and also speaks to working class people like we just saw a moment ago, in a way that explains how the policies of the Democratic Party will improve their material conditions and will allow them to live more dignified lives. And that's going to be incredibly difficult. It is going to be an uphill battle, solely due to just the amount of havoc that has already been wreaked by this administration a little over 1 year into their term. So it's going to be very difficult for whoever the Democratic nominee is, even if they win, to undo the damage that's been done. Hopefully some of that can happen prior to the presidential election, but I don't know. I'm skeptical, because it's going to require, it's going to be difficult. We're in for, I think, a very difficult future as things stand currently, but maybe I'm wrong, and I certainly hope I do. Let me know what you think, okay? Because in my mind, it's like in 2028, the ball's going to be completely in the Democrats' court, so they're going to need to score some touchdowns. I'm not good at sports metaphors, okay? Also, never take a word, Jim, that's spelled G-Y-M, Jordan says. Why? Because he's creepy, right? It freaks me out a little bit. It's also how does a guy who is accused of the things that he's accused of continue to stay in power? Oh, right. Can we cue "This Is America" by Childish Gambino? I'm in the mood for that. I'm in the mood for that song right now for some reason. Oh, just nightmare after nightmare. I will see you next time, folks. It's gonna be okay.